the Sam Tavarez podcast, talking sports, movies, and everything else you could possibly imagine. And now, here's Sam doing his Sam things.
And welcome to episode 3 of the Sam Tavarez podcast. I'm Sam, but as always, I'm sure you already knew that. I don't know why the hell I keep saying it. Welcome, guys. Thank you for listening. To all those who listened to episode 2 and episode 1, thank you for the support. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Excuse me. Now, last week, I teased that for this episode, I'm going to be talking about a movie that I've watched. And instead of talking about one movie, I decided to talk about two because I feel that both these movies are must-watches. Okay? Now, last week, I talked to you about a movie that stars Jennifer Connelly and Frank Whaley. And to be honest with you, I didn't know this until I did some research before doing this podcast. In 1991, there was a movie called Career Opportunities. It started, as I mentioned, Jennifer Connelly and Frank Whaley, and at the time, it was the trashiest movie ever. I mean, it only earned $11 million in the box office. People didn't like it, and immediately it was taken away from theaters. But recently, on YouTube, I was searching up some music, and typically music from the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, a mixture. And this video came up, and you're going to think this is the funniest thing ever. The reason how I stumbled onto this movie was because there's a movie called Space Age Love Song. And the thumbnail of this video was Jennifer Connelly, who was 21 years old at the time when Career Opportunities was shot. So I watched the music video. It wasn't an official music video. It was someone's version of that music video, and it was a compilation of scenes from that movie between Jen Connelly, who plays Josie, and excuse me, and Frank Whaley's character Jim Dodge. And I loved the compilation. I loved the scenes that they were in it. I felt that it was funny. I felt that it was romantic. And I decided, hey, let's check out this movie. So I bought the movie on iTunes and I watched it that night. And to be completely honest with you, I loved it. I loved it. Now listen, I've seen plenty romantic comedies in my lifetime, and I still say to this day, one of my favorite and to me the most funniest rom-com out there is the movie Hitch, starring Eva Mendes and Will Smith. It's funny, it's romantic, but I really believe that the movie Career Opportunities surpasses that by a very, very slight margin. And I'll tell you why. You need to understand something. In the 90s, there were different types of comedies. Comedy wasn't as graphic as it is now. By graphic I mean sexualized. Comedy back then wasn't as sexualized as it is now. And comedy was your basic stupid jokes like knock knock who's there, or stuff like that. This movie, and if you don't want to get spoiled, don't listen to this. I'm going to spoil this movie for you, but I still believe that you should watch it. This movie stars Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly. Both of them are playing the roles of 21-year-olds. Okay? Young adults who are still trying to figure out what to do with their life. You have Frank Whaley's character, Jim Dodge, who's a con man. He lies for a living, but not lying as if, he's this con artist who has managed to steal a lot of money and whatnot. He's just your average liar. A guy who lies to make himself look better. And then you have Jennifer Connelly's character. She plays Josie. I forgot her last name. I do apologize. And she's the total opposite. Her parents, her father is rich, her mother passed away, and she has everything. But she's trying to escape all that. She's trying to start a new life. She wants to get away from all the fortune that her father has, because her father is a public figure in this movie. He's running for governor of that state. And you see in one of the scenes how her father is trying to kiss up to some of the local officials, mayors, congress people, etc., and how he uses his daughter, in a sense, to get what he wants. Obviously, he's not trying to, pass his daughter off as a hoe, pardon the term, but when you watch the scene, you might think that. He's not trying to do that, but he knows that because of his daughter's beauty, she will have the ability to persuade these men to making decisions that benefit her father. And she doesn't like that. And there's a scene in which, as she's doing that, she kisses the mayor of the town on the lips. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was pretty hot, but but she does so. But she didn't do it with any pleasure. She did it because she knew that it would make her father proud. Even though later on in the scene, you can tell that that's not what her father wanted her to do. She basically seduced the man and flirted with another. And that's, in the movie, that's the type of lifestyle she doesn't want to have. She doesn't want her life to revolve around what her father does or who he is. She wants to set off on her own and do her own thing. Now, on the other hand, you have Jim Dodge, a 21-year-old who dropped out of college, who still has, the mind of an amateur, of a teenager. Doesn't want to leave home, doesn't want to get a job, has this unrealistic mindset that, he's going to live at his parents' house forever. They're always going to take care of him. And he doesn't have to worry about, them wanting to kick him out. Because, really, if you come to think about it, his parents really haven't done anything to push him to do something until he gets fired from his job working at the pet shelter. Again, you have to watch this movie. I'm going to spoil some parts of it, but you have to watch it. It's just great. It's not how can I say, it's not that funny, but there are funny parts within this movie that'll make you laugh. Okay? But, and I do apologize. My phone just dinged. I just got a text message, so I do apologize for that. Um, but yeah, Frank Whaley's character, Jim Dodge, as I said, he's very immature, has the mindset of a child, and, he really, he really has a problem keeping a job because, according to his father in the movie, he's gotten fired from almost every job he's ever had. And his father asks him one day, on his way to a job interview at Target, which is really where this movie has takes place. He asks him, he's like, "Why aren't you like all the other 21-year-olds? Why don't you want to get out of the house, start your own new life, and really just leave and do your own thing?" And I'm paraphrasing here. And, Jim replies to his father, says, "I like living at home. I like the home cooking. I love the lifestyle. And I know that you guys will always take care of me." Now, I'm not a parent, but if my son or daughter ever told me that, I'd be startled. Especially if my son or daughter has the mental and physical ability to go out and do wonderful things with their lives. That would frighten me. And I'm sure that it frightened Jim's father and his mom as well. But anyway, Jim gets fired from his job at the pet shelter. He applies for a job at Target. He interviews. Now, originally, the person who's interviewing him, who's a famous actor, passed away a long time ago, he confuses him with someone else. He believes that Jim is interviewing for an operations manager position. And what makes this so funny is that Jim plays along with the person who's interviewing him. And, when it comes time to offer him a salary, the person who's interviewing him said, "Listen, the best and only offer we will make you is 40,000." And Jim nonchalantly says, "Tell you what, let's do 45." And they agree on a deal. And still, this other character, not knowing that Jim is not the guy who is interviewing for the operations manager position, they make the deal, and all of a sudden, the phone rings. Turns out that it's HQ, Target's, HQ. And they tell them that Jim isn't the guy interviewing for the operations manager position. So, no more 45K a year, but rather 875 an hour, being a garbage boy, a nighttime janitor, which kind of sucks. But anyway, um, during this time, Jen Connolly's character Josie is in Target. She is stealing stuff because she plans on, shoplifting Target, but for some reason she doesn't do it. And you know, they get locked in Target together. Jim on his first day gets trained, quote unquote, by the head janitor, and to Jim's surprise, that head janitor locks him in Target. He didn't know that, you know, part of the job was being locked inside Target for the entire night. So he gets locked in, and typical Jim, not taking his job seriously, he starts to fool around. He tries on all the clothes, he plays loud music, he turns on all the lights when they're not supposed to be on, and he does what every amateur would do: have fun and not take the job seriously. That's until he sees Josie, who's the only other person at the store. They meet. It turns out that they already know each other. Apparently, they had gone to high school together. And, you know, to make this long story short, they really connected. They got to know each other. She expressed what her desires were, what she was looking to do. She told him that she ran away from home and that her plan was to shoplift Target so that she can get arrested so that she could embarrass her father. Which eventually she didn't do because she admits that she didn't have the guts to do it. What I liked about this particular scene was that the writers really established what each character desired. And I know that even though in the previous scene, Jim expressed his desires to his father, he didn't do it, however, with detail. With as much detail as I'm sure his father would have liked. But he managed to do it to this stunning young girl. And by him doing so, they really connected. And I think that as the movie went on, it really helped their relationship grow and grow. But anyway, they had dinner together. They had a hot dog from the Target, the Target, what you call it, vendor, whatever you call it, and they fool around. Eventually, they have two robbers who break into the store and try to steal something, and it's set up, in my opinion, one of the best robber and civilian encounters since Home Alone, in my opinion. The two robbers were kind of idiots. They didn't know how to, apprehend Jim and, you know, Josie. But Josie, in a sense, was a little bit smarter than Jim. She managed to outsmart the robbers. She played along with them stealing. And, you know, I'm not going to spoil any more of this movie to you guys because I want you to watch it. I've spoiled, I think, enough of it already, but Listen, I want you. I want you all. She's smarter than him, and it's set up to be a very special, you know, um, ending. Eventually, they both ran off together, and they really, I guess you can say, had a happily ever after. They got together. They moved to Hollywood. Because Josie stole $50,000 from her father. But they did it. They did it. And if I had to rate this movie from 0 to 5, it would be a 5. It would be a 5. Are there things I wish were different? Yes. Do I wish there was a little more, you know, details about Josie and Jim's relationship? Yes. Do I wish that we could see more about what they did post the Target fiasco? Absolutely. But for a movie that, was made in the 90s, today, if someone were to make a remake of this movie today, I think people would watch it. I think people would watch it because it has the type of comedy that people are accustomed to seeing today. It's kind of sexual. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of sexual. There's no nudity, but there isn't any doubt that whoever wrote this story and knew that Jennifer Connelly, who's beautiful, listen, she's beautiful. She was beautiful then, and she's beautiful now. Lucky Paul Bettany. And those who don't know who Paul Bettany is, Paul Bettany is the guy who plays Jarvis in the original Iron Man trilogy. Who's Vision? Who's going to be back in the new WandaVision series on Disney Plus? So, that's who her husband is. He's a lucky man. But whoever wrote this story, whoever wrote this movie, who knew that Jen Connolly was going to be in it, they knew that they had to kind of, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, I don't want to sound sexist or anything like that, but they knew that they had to shape the character and make that character a bit sexy. And you know what? I think Jen Connolly played that role perfectly. I mean, she knew how to flirt in this movie. She was sexy. She was, you know, she really played the role real well. And I don't think that if they were to make a remake of this movie, that anyone else would play that role as perfectly as Jennifer Connelly did. Although I'm gonna tell you the truth, if they make a remake of this movie, A, don't do it at a Target. Do it at a Walmart or at a Best Buy. Change the story a little bit. Don't make it so similar to the 1991 version. You want it to be better. Of course, you want it shape around to be around the same narrative as the original movie, but make it differently. Make it different. Change the characters' names. I don't know. Do something different, but keep the same plot of the movie intact. Give career opportunities a chance because you're gonna love it. And I don't know, man. If I were able to go back to the 90s, I think I would make Jennifer Connelly my wife. Honest to God. I mean, she was just great. She seems like a very cool person, fun to be around, and come on, she just dropped that gorgeous. There's no other way of putting it. So give career opportunities a shot. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. You can even buy it on iTunes. I bought it off of iTunes, but if you have Amazon Prime, it comes with your Amazon Prime subscription. So check it out. Another movie I watched was really fascinating. I've watched almost every Jon Favreau Marvel movie, from Iron Man to the Avengers to even the Mandalorian, which oh my god was outstanding. But I bet most of you didn't know that Jon Favreau made a movie that had nothing to do with superheroes or with superhumans. Recently, I watched a movie called Chef, and it's about this renowned chef who works at a local restaurant in California who really is top of the line. And he's trying to reinvent himself. He's trying to change the menu of the restaurant he works at because he feels that, serving the same thing starts getting old and that the reviews would be horrible. So he tries to change up the menu, tries to invent and cook new things. And the owner of the restaurant, who's played by Dustin Hoffman, the great Dustin Hoffman, may I add, doesn't want that because he's afraid that if the new menu tanks, no one will come to the restaurant. So he and the owner get into a dispute. Eventually, he stays, but he gets into an argument with a critic who has been critiquing his food badly for a long, long time. And as a result, he quit his job and he decided to open up a food truck. Yes, a food truck. And and this is what I liked about this movie: the fact that he was a divorced father. His son and his wife, his ex-wife, I should say, who was played by Sofia Vergara, who was perfect for that role in my opinion, and his best friend, his sous chef, that's played by John Leguizamo, also did a fantastic job with that role. Helps him. But something that he's also struggling with, aside from his career, is his relationship with his son. He's always put his job before his son, and his son has paid the price because of it. His son is 10 in this movie, and his son wants to spend more time with him. Daddy, I want to be around you, and this and that. But John's character, I forgot his name. I do sincerely apologize. But John's character doesn't want anything to do with it. Yeah, he goes out with his son. They go to Disneyland. They go to these small places to spend some time together. But when it comes to actually spending more quality time with his son, he didn't want anything to do with it because of his career. And that's what made this movie such a beautiful story, such a beautiful movie. He starts off with the food truck, and he takes his son to Miami. Well, no, he didn't take his son to Miami. I stand corrected. When he lost his job, his ex-wife went to Miami to visit her father, and she invited him to go with them. So he went, and that's where the idea of opening up a food truck started. But anyway, they open a food truck, and the son, who's trying to spend more time with his father, comes along. He's part of the opening of the food truck, and instantly that food truck becomes a sensation. His son starts to learn how to cook, and his son, you know, gets the quality time with his father that he wants. And throughout this entire movie, you see how his food truck, which became popular in Miami, became popular around the country. He went to all these different cities: Los Angeles, New Orleans, Texas, etc. And everywhere he went, people would line up to eat from his food truck because the food was so damn good. And here's a fun fact: Jon Favreau, who's an awesome movie director, is also a pretty good chef. There's a series on Netflix called The Chef Show, where he goes to all these different restaurants around LA and he learns how to cook their premium meal. And I strongly recommend you watch this because it's just fantastic. But anyway, um, so they do this trip around America on their way back from Miami to LA. And I think to me, what impacted me about this story was that he was so upset that he lost his job at the restaurant. But he also knew that that wasn't what he wanted to do. He wanted to open up his own place. He wanted to cook meals that he knew people would like and not listen to what someone else wanted him to do, which eventually he did. And opening the food truck really, really allowed him to do it. Excuse me for 1 second. It allowed him to do his own thing And I think that to me, the biggest lesson from this movie, honestly, is that when you put your mind to something, when you set your mind to do something, you can accomplish anything. There's a famous quote from the movie Back to the Future that says, when you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. That's what he did. Yeah, he was devastated because he knew that without a job, he wasn't able to be with his son. Not that he spent much time with his son at the time, but that he needed to do something. And little did you know, this food truck not only gave him the business he wanted, the attention he wanted, the fame he wanted, but it also gave him time to be with his son, which at the end was the most important thing to him. If I were to rate this movie also gets a 5 out of 5. Now, if you want to grade it from a 0 to 10, 10 out of 10, because that's how great it was. I think it was the first Jon Favreau non superhero movie that I was really touched by. It was beautiful. There was no vulgarity. Well, there was some, but there was no, there was nothing really bad about it, nothing immoral about it. And I'm not saying that I'm the type of guy who watches immoral movies or movies that, are PG rated. But I watch all types of movies. Let's get that straightened out. But it was a family movie. It was a family movie, and it really, if you're a parent, a working parent, it really opens your eyes and it makes you realize that there are more important things than your job. Your family has to come first. Your job has to come second. And I know that sometimes the job and the family battle each other for that top spot, but hey, you gotta put your family first. Always. If you don't, well, don't expect to have a happy family life. I mentioned that in the movie, Jon Favreau's character was divorced and that Sofia Vergara played the role of his ex wife. Well, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, they get remarried. At the end of the movie, the same critic who wrote badly about him while he was a head chef at this restaurant in LA was his biggest investor. Gave him money to purchase a property in LA to open up his own restaurant, and he did. This was the the movie of the year in my opinion. This came out in 2019, but this movie I don't believe ever came out in theaters. And right now it is number 5 on Netflix. Number 5 from the top 10 movies on Netflix right now, Chef by Jon Favreau, which he wrote and directed, is number 5. Just an amazing movie. Watch this one and also watch Career Opportunities. Both movies are fantastic in my opinion. You might have a different opinion, that's okay. But both movies are just fantastic. This episode of the podcast is short because, unlike last week, I gave you a whole life lesson about interracial relationships. Next week, we might talk some sports, but we also, might delve into another topic I really feel we need to address. As always, if you liked this video, this podcast, hit the like button and also subscribe. And please, please, I beg of you, share it with your friends, your family. The holidays are just around the corner. Gather the family around. Listen to the Sam Tavarez podcast. If you're just joining us for the first time, please watch the first 2 episodes or listen to the first 2 episodes of this podcast because you're going to like it. I do my best to talk about things that matter. I do my best to delve into situations that I think people want to hear about. I'm not going to talk politics. I'm not going to tell you who I believe is wrong, who I believe is right. Because that right now is what's causing the most division in this country right now. So I'm not going to talk about it. My closing message. Last week, I shared with you one of my favorite quotes from Derek Jeter. And I talked to you about, how you shouldn't rush and how you should take control of your own life. The holidays are vastly approaching. I'm recording this on a Thursday, December 24th, 2020. This will air Friday, December 25th. And by the time you listen to this, it will be the holiday season. Yes, we know. We all wish that we were able to be with our loved ones, whether it's at another state, in their house, or we all wish that we could take a family vacation to DR or to Mexico. But even Miami. Why not Miami? I love Miami. Miami's great. But keep in mind something. You're going to be either virtually or in person if you're going to take the risk. If you are, be careful. But if you're doing it virtually, keep in mind that you are going to have a privilege that over 450,000 people in this country have not been able or will not be able to have. And that's the ability to see their family members. Because sadly, a lot of people have lost family members because of this COVID crisis. Cherish these moments you will have with them. Not only when you listen to this on the 25th, but always. I was recently listening to a Q&A with Steve Cohen and Howie Rose. Steve Cohen, the new owner of the Mets, Howie Rose, the radio voice of the Mets on WCBS. And something that Steve said, and he's completely right, he was asked, how is he going to be able to, or how he plans to draw people back to the ballpark once the COVID crisis is over, once we have herd immunity, or when the state of New York decides that it's okay to have people within sporting arenas at a limited capacity. And he said this when he answered the question. He says, I know that people will have a little more appreciation for being at the ballpark, a little more appreciation for anything they do. And he's right. When this is over, hopefully soon, we're all going to appreciate things a little more. But my message is this. Don't wait until this ends to appreciate the little things even more. Appreciate them now. We all should appreciate everything we have, every opportunity we get. None of us should have waited to this moment, to when we're in the middle of a pandemic, to start appreciating the little things. We should have been appreciating them long, long before. Okay? Appreciate the little things. If you're going to meet with your family virtually, appreciate it. Don't bitch and moan that you're not able to be with them face to face. It sucks, of course. But hey, you know how many family members I've FaceTimed with over the past couple of months? Many. And even though they're not with me face to face, I'm still happy to see them. And I appreciate and I take in the small moments I have with them. Appreciate the little things. Appreciate them more now. Don't wait till this ends. Life is short, and sadly, life is very unpredictable. You could be here today, but you never know if you're going to live the entire day. You never know what tomorrow might bring. An example of that, listen, I had a neighbor. He woke up one morning, went to work, and he didn't come back home because he suffered a massive heart attack on the subway. He wasn't married. He didn't have any kids. According to his mom, he planned on having children. He planned on getting married. He had a girlfriend who he planned on proposing to, but unfortunately never did. Life is unpredictable, my friends. Life can You can have life today, but you never know if you're gonna have it tomorrow. Heck, you don't even know if you're gonna have it within the next 20 minutes. That's how unpredictable it is. Appreciate the little things even more now. And I promise you, if God forbid something happens to you or to a family member as you're dwelling their loss, and again, God forbid, I hope none of this happens to any of you. But if the day of tomorrow something happens to you or a family member, as you're dwelling their loss, you also have this inner peace that, yeah, I didn't see them face to face because of COVID, but I got to see them, even if it's through my cell phone screen, my iPad, my laptop, etc. Be grateful. Show appreciation. And once this ends, give them a big, big hug and a big kiss. Doesn't matter if it's a guy or it's a girl. Your grandma, your grandpa, your mom, your dad, your sister, your cousin, it doesn't matter. Believe me, you will feel great afterwards. With that being said, I'm Sam, and I will talk to you all soon. Again, like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Sam Tavarez Podcast.